Okay, so we are going to be working on the Jack-o'-lantern clay sculpted cup. You will need a 14-ounce stainless steel coffee mug. I sand mine. I don't know if you have to do that, but I do that. I want to ensure that the clay sticks to the cup as much as possible. Then I use my clay. I use the Super Sculpey. You can use whatever clay you prefer, like best working with. I prefer this because it's a little firmer and it's easier for me to work with. I don't know why it's easier, but I don't like the soft clay. I also use an X-Acto knife to cut the face off of my pumpkin and also cut off excess clay that I don't want on my cup. I use a silicone tipped tool that looks like this. You don't necessarily have to use this exact tool. You can use whatever works best for you to get the lines and definition in your pumpkin, and also to blend your clay into other parts of the clay. I also use a clay extruder that has a round tip in there. You do not need to use this. This is just easier for me. It makes it go quicker, but you can also just roll out your clay and that works fine too. And also you need a rolling pin. This is a fondant or fondant, wherever you're from, rolling pin, but you can use whatever you want that best rolls your clay out. And I think that's all we use for this project, so let's get started. Okay, so now that we got our cup completely covered in clay, as smooth as you want it, I don't try to get too caught up in smoothing it out because I could be at it for a long time. And the great thing about pumpkins is they're not really smooth. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our silicone tip tool, or whatever tool that you want to use to create the lines in the pumpkin, also the details that you want, and then once we get that done, we'll move on to the handle, which is like the vine that goes off of the pumpkin. All right, let's get started. One thing I like to do when I'm making these, I mean, I've only made this once, but what I did do is I made the line and then I pulled it away to kind of give it more of a curve, more of a natural look, and just kind of make it look as pumpkin-y as you possibly can. Remember, our pumpkins are organic and they're not going to be perfect. You're not going to make the exact same one. No matter what you do, they will all look different. So yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention is if you want to cover the bottom, you can. I find it harder to get the cup level when doing that. So that's up to you. If you want to play with getting that bottom completely covered and looking more like a pumpkin, you can do that. But it's harder for me to keep it level, so I chose not to. Okay. So you just make the lines that you want around the pumpkin. You don't have to be perfect. You can make them as detailed as you want. They don't have to be evenly spaced. You just make the lines as well as you want. Blend them. Like that. Doesn't look like much now, but once you add all the details with the lines and the pumpkin, like just little things to make it look more organic, and just little details that you want to add to it to give it a little bit more of a textured look. And then just keep going around your mug to give it the texture and the lines that you want. And when you finish that, we'll move on to the handle. All right. Okay, so now that we got the details of our pumpkin pretty much finished, we are going to do the handle. And for the handle, what I did was I took my extruder and I just put clay in it, and then I turned it until I got these thin strands of clay. They can be as thick as you want it. You can make them bigger, smaller, whatever you prefer. If you don't have a clay extruder, you do not have to use it. You could just take some clay and just roll it out to the desired thickness that you want. I just find it faster to get it all rolled out the way I want with the extruder, but you do not need it. So what we're going to do is we're going to find where we want our little vine to start from, and you just want to tack it down by just putting a little bit of pressure on it, and you're just going to wrap your little, you don't even need it that long, wrap the little strand as far apart or as tight as you want. You're just going to wrap it around it. Doesn't have to be perfect, and I might even do it a little bit differently than I did on my first one. Might make it a little bit farther apart, and you just tack it down again. Okay, so that's your first one. And then you're just going to take another strand. You're going to wrap it around again. Whoops, I broke it. If you break it, just tack it down, because you're just going to blend it in anyway. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's the beauty of nature. There is a little bit of room to have quote-unquote flaws. And you just keep going until you're happy with how it looks. And I'll tear that piece off. Let's see, do I want to do another one? I think what I want to do is I want to twist this a little bit, just a little bit. I might even add another piece to that. Let's see. Just to make it a little bit thicker. Just squeeze it together and just twist it. And then tack it in place. So that is the basic idea of how it will look. I might even add a little bit more to that top part, because I've got enough clay for it. I might as well make it the way I want it, and just make that as however you deem to look the way you want. You could even wrap it differently, add more. I might even do this. Oh yeah, I like that. I wrapped it around the handle and then just brought it back up, and I'm going to twist it into that. Okay, if you can see that, just kind of make what looks like a little vine that will go down the handle. Now this is where, let me take some of that excess off. This is where your blending tool will be useful. Now I don't know how easy it would be to do with your fingers. You might be able to do that, but I like to use my little silicone tool, and I just kind of blend it. I don't know if you can see this. You just kind of pull the sides down and kind of blend it into the clay that was already on the handle. And you're gonna kind of just make it look kind of veiny. It doesn't have to be perfect, because for one, if you are making a jack-o'-lantern, it's gonna be a little creepy. So you kind of want to give it a little bit of a creepy vibe, if you can do that. But I mean, you can just blend it in on both sides. Doesn't have to be smooth. It's a vine off of a plant, so You just make it look how you like. You can mess with it as much as you want. If you don't like it, you can remove it and try again. I mean, that's the beauty of clay. This is another reason why I like Super Sculpey. I like to use one color. That way, if I don't like the way it's looking, I can just pull it all off and start again. So I am going to speed this up, and I'm just going to blend this in together, and then we'll come back and we'll do the face. See you soon.
Out. So what we're going to do is you take whatever image you want as a face and you just put it on top. If you want to freehand this, you surely can. I did not do great at the freehand, so I just went ahead and printed it, and then I just took, this is a little ball tool, but you could probably use another tool, but this is what I use. It's just got a little ball on it. And then I just basically trace on top of my clay the face. This is a little different face than the last one I did. If you'd seen my first jack-o'-lantern tumbler, I wanted to do a slightly different face. And I thought I would go with a slightly simpler face too. But you just basically trace over it. Try not to move it too much. Oops. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. And if you remove it, you'll see a basic outline of it, and then you can make it more predominant, or you can just cut right over it. Just keep tracing. You might be able to do this with a pencil or a pen or something to that nature. Preferably, probably not something too sharp because you don't want to cut it. Okay, so you can kind of see the face. It's not too predominant, but it's just enough so that you know where you're wanting to cut. So you just begin to cut it out. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to get it as close to your image as possible.
just kind of lift out as best you can. Try not to damage. And you just push that back down, and if it gets a little misshapen, you can always fix it. I'm apologizing for my camera shaking. My desk is not very stable, or at least it's not set. So any little movement will shake my camera. I will find a better solution for my next tutorial, whenever that may be. And there's your face. Once you get that finished, you're going to touch up anything that you need touched up. If you feel like it needs more details, or if you accidentally put fingerprints, or if you need to smooth out some more areas, go ahead and do that now. You could also just make this a regular pumpkin and skip the whole step of cutting the face out and add leaves or whatever if you want. And then you're going to bake it. You will bake it based off of the instructions that are on your clay. This says 15 minutes per a 1/4 inch thickness, so you'll want to bake it longer than that. It might be the handle might be a little thicker than that, so you'll probably want to do it at least 30 minutes, if not more. And then once you're done baking it, you can let it cool and then prime it, or I like to prime it. I like to give it a nice white base coat before I paint it. It makes my colors pop a little bit better, but you do not have to do this. You can just directly paint it the color that you want. But yeah, after you get this baked, or after I get mine baked, I will come back with a tutorial on how I paint it. And then we will talk about how you do the glowing eyes. Until next time.